Okay, Emma's. We're going over subject-verb agreement. This shouldn't be too complicated. Let's get started. Subject-verb agreement, as you guys all should know, is just the subject and the verb has to agree with one another, right? So he, the race, what would this be? If the verb is win, how will you make it? How will you make it so the subject and the verb agrees? Anyone can answer.
He won the race.
He wins.
Or in present tense.
Wins.
Wins, yeah, wins. He wins the race. How about the team, the race? What would it be?
The team wins the race.
Yeah. And then the group of students. What would this be? It's a little bit tricky.
Does the homework?
Yeah, does the homework. Okay. And then after will, can, or should, the verb should always be the original verb. So like, it will never be will does. It will always be will do, right? Or can does, or should does. It will just be can. It will just be the original verb without any modification. So the easiest way to check for subject-verb agreement is, we talked about it a few grammar lessons ago, is to remove all modifiers. So in this sentence, right, the existence of consistent rules and regulations in classrooms are important if a teacher wants to run a class efficiently. For this, how will you correct this sentence? Any idea?
Do you have to correct it?
Yes.
I don't think this is wrong.
It is wrong. See, that's one of the kind of the harder aspects to know about this. Okay, so basically the how do I say this? The rule you should do is to remove all modifiers. So let's get started by removing all the modifiers, right? So what's an example of a modifier? A modifier is usually indicated by a preposition. So is of a preposition? Yes or no?
Yes.
Yeah, so since of is a preposition, and you guys know what a prepositional phrase is, right?
Yes.
Yes. So a prepositional phrase is just a thing that follows the preposition. So of consistent rules and regulations is a prepositional phrase. In classroom is also a preposition. If a teacher wants to run a class efficiently, this is a modifier, modifying what is important. So the actual sentence itself is the existence. The existence are important. Is that correct or no? Is existence singular or plural? Existence is yes. Existence is singular, right? It's not the existences. It's the existence. So as such, what should be corrected in this sentence?
Consistent.
No. It's actually are.
Is important?
Yes, it should be is important. Exactly. It should be is important because the actual sentence itself is the existent is important. Right? If you remove all the extra details, which are the modifiers in between, the existence is important. So it shouldn't be are important. So although sentences like this might look correct and they feel correct, right, when you're reading it, because you think about rules and regulation as plural and linking to the are. However, it's not the rules and regulations that are important. It's the existence of the rules and regulations. So these are just additional detail attached to existence, meaning that the actual sentence itself is the existence is important, not are important. So let's do another practice. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So let's do another practice. Freddie, along with the 4 other members of his band, plan to go on a world tour this year. How should we correct this? If we were to go, let's say anyone can volunteer to go, but let's say if you were to cross out the modifiers, what would be a modifier in this sentence?
Along with the other 4 members of his band.
Okay. Anything else?
Oh, we should change the plan to plans.
Exactly. We should change the plan to plans, right? So we learned in our grammar lesson that comma means what? It's a modifier and you can cross it out. So let's cross out the modifier here. And then to go on a world trip. So to go on a world tour this year is a prepositional phrase. So the actual sentence itself is just Freddie planned to go. However, Freddie, since it's a singular, you can change it to a he, right? So
Yeah.
he plans to go. So it should be plans and not plan. So this is a more like, this is a part of like sentence correction that's a little bit more subtle, but it's always easier to see them when you remove the modifiers, okay? So we have a lot more practice with this later. Just give me 1 second. Wait, let me pull something up on my iPad. So. And then we can continue. Where did it go? Okay, this is a bit. Okay, it's okay. I think we can continue. It's okay. I was going to bring up the worksheet, but I'll bring it up later. Okay. So yeah, that's the first part about subject-verb agreement. It's pretty easy. So let's do some practice. But wait, actually, before we do some practice, let's just do this. So countability, this is a bit more confusing. So countable is plural, and uncountable, a thing that's uncountable is singular. So what I mean by this is, when in this question, half of the team members, it should be are guys or is guys. Which one is it? Let's have like Janelle or Sophia answer this question. Which one do you think is this? Yes, it should be are guys. And the reason why it's are is because half the team members, you can count the team members. Right? Team members is something that you can count. What about half of the team? Is it something that you can count or no?
You can't count it.
Yeah, so a team, although you can know there's one team, it's not possible to count a team, right? It's not like, because there is no S here, so you cannot count the team. However, if this question is half of the teams, then what should it be? Yes, then conversely, it should be R. Because if there are a lot of teams, then I could say team 1, team 2, team 3, and then it becomes countable. What about this? Half of the sky is or are blue?
Are.
Are blue? Then what about, what do other people think?
Is?
Sunny says is.
It is. It's.
Yeah, it is. So the reason why it's is blue is because the sky is uncountable. You can't count. There's one sky, of course, but like you can't measure like this part is 1, this part is 2. Okay, then what about this? Half of the lake containing phosphate is or are teeming with blue algae. Which one is this?
I think it's R because it's with like a bunch of people.
Okay, so Sunny says it's R. Anyone else?
Is it saying like there's multiple lakes containing phosphates, or just saying one lake?
So half of the lake, right? So it's a singular lake containing phosphate. Yes, it should be. Yeah, it should be is. So it's a bit confusing. We'll get more practice with this. So yeah, give me a second. Let me pull up the practice question on my iPad so we can get through this more efficiently. I don't know why like my thing isn't working today as intended, which is weird. But yeah, just give me like 1 minute to figure this out. because my computer updated overnight, so a lot of things became weird. See, shouldn't work now. Oh, so annoying. Please work. Let's go. Let's go. Okay, yeah. Nice. Okay, so let me pull up the questions then. It's working. So yeah, although subject-verb agreement seems pretty simple, it is a bit confusing when it comes to questions that like you might not be immediately familiar with. Because a lot of times we base ourselves, or we base what we write on like a feeling, which is not always accurate. So yeah, it's important to distinguish it and then actually understand how it works. So in this question, let's have Janelle answer this question. Janelle, what do you think the answer for this question is? After days of practice, the members of the group dance went onto the stage for its final performance. What should it be?
I think it's D.
It's which one? Sorry.
D.
D. Yeah, that is correct. So if we remove the modifiers, which in this case, after days of practice is a modifier, right? Members of the group dance is a prepositional phrase. Went on to the stage was a prepositional phrase. So the for, right? For is also a preposition. So, sorry, my bad, not this, sorry. Went onto the stage for is a preposition. So it's the members went, right? So then members went, let's say onto the stage. So members went for, then it should be, it refers to the members. So it will be D there. That is correct. Next question for Sophia. What do you think this one is?
Is?
Yeah, it's just is. So it's pretty simple. It's because it's referring to his glowing smile. So it's smile, right? Smile is evidence. So yeah, this is pretty easy. Next question, let's have Emily answer this. What do you think this question is? This is a bit confusing. This one's a harder one. So how should we correct Molly to make this, or maybe we don't have to correct Molly, but let's say if we, what should we change about the sentence? Change the blue highlight to make it make sense. Let's try to look for clues within the sentence.
C.
C? Yes, so why do you answer C? What is the hint that gives you that the idea that this should be Molly and Harry? Exactly there, right? So they were doing in class, so you know that if you were to change only this word, it'll have to change into something that that fits into the criteria of they. So nothing else works except for C. Next question, let's have Sunny answer this. At a public school called Quest to Learn in New York, teachers use video games to teach because students love playing them.
Teachers use video game.
Which one should it be? Sorry, video game, like B or?
But use video. I think it's no change.
No change? Okay, why do you think it's no change?
Because like they can use different video games to teach.
Yes, of course, but within the context of the sentence, like what is the evidence that shows you that it has to be video games and not video game or an electronic game, or just like just don't exist at all?
Because students love to play them, not
yeah, exactly.
it.
Yes. So them, right? Them implies it's a plural, so it should be video games. Yep. So let's do some so right now here, let's do some punctuation practice, which is like a review from last class. Originally, I was going to assign this for you guys as like homework. However, it was a bit boring. So I was like, let's do this as a review. So let me pull it up. And then we can just go over this. And after this punctuation practice, we'll go over, what is it? Oh, we'll go over the practice questions. And then practice questions for more subject-verb agreements, just to make sure you guys all know how to solve this, because it'll become kind of important down the line for you guys. So then it's good to become good at it now, basically. So, but you guys seem already pretty good at it. So then afterwards, we'll discuss about evidence usage. So let me share the screen now. Share. Okay. So for the first question, there are three types. So let's start with Chanel again. So there are three types of lies: omissions, where someone holds out on the facts; commission, where someone states facts are untrue; and poltering, where someone uses true facts to mislead you. For this first question, how should you correct it so that it makes sense, or that is correct grammatically? This is going back to the punctuation lesson that we did 2 weeks ago.
I think it's C.
It's C. Why do you feel like it's C?
I have no idea, but maybe I'm not sure.
Okay, yeah. So let's look at the actual sentence itself, right? So when you're not sure about questions like this, because oftentimes it's hard to, you can use process of elimination, or you can just, yeah. So let's use process of elimination. Okay. So there are three types of lies. So we know what's a way to use colons? Do you guys still remember? Anyone can answer this?
Like omission is a type of lie?
Yeah, so the use of colons that we talked about for one class, it's to give additional detail, right?
Wait,
so
I think it's D.
It's D?
Yeah, it's D.
Yeah, so the actual answer is D. So we know that colons give additional detail. So if we look at this, all of this from here on out to the end, this is additional detail. And then additionally, the sentence uses omission and then comma, right? So omission, additional detail, and then commission, comma, additional detail, poltering, comma, additional detail. So if we were to really simplify the sentence into its like really bare, like if we were to simplify the back part of the sentence, it will be omission, right? And then remove the where someone holds out the facts, commission, and then remove the back part, and then poltering, right? So then there are three types of lies: omission, commission, and poltering. So it's similar to the concept that we learned for, do you guys remember this? For Paris, France, and then you put a semicolon, right? And then like Madrid, Spain, and then something like this. So it's similar to the concept as in, since you have a comma within the omission category, what then you then do is you use semicolons to separate the big breaks. So instead of putting comma, since you already have a comma with where someone holds out the facts, you need a semicolon at the end instead of just a period of comma. So that's correct. The actual answer is D. Okay. For the second question, let's have Sophia answer.
Maybe B.
So why do you think it's B?
Wait, it's the one with the however, right?
Yeah, so question 2.
Maybe because I think both of them are independent.
Okay, what about other people? Do you guys think which answer do you think it could be for the second question? Do we agree that it's B, or? Does this mean you guys are not, like the silence mean you guys are not sure, or like you guys agree that it's B?
I do.
Okay. What about other people? So I guess we are, Emily? Yeah, so the actual answer is indeed B. So it's because it is not always easy to detect that by itself is a sentence. There are a few telltale signs that's also a sentence, right? So when joining two sentences together, it's incorrect to just use comma and then however, because however is not a conjunction. So you have to put comma and a conjunction. So the reason why it will just be B, right? So D will become actually, it's called a sentence. It's called sentence fragment because you have two complete sentences and it's not related, as in you have two different verbs. So it's not, yeah. And then lastly, for C, it's just not the best way to join these two sentences together, because although this still works, you have then an unnecessary conjunction, right? You'll just do this, and then there are a few telltale signs to indicate a relationship. You don't need the but. Okay, for question 3, let's have Emily. Can you answer question 3? So studies published in the Journal of Personality and Social Psychology suggests that the practice of faltering is pretty common, especially among business executives. What do you think the answer is? D? C. Yeah. So why do you think it's C?
Because if it is suggesting, it doesn't really make sense if you read it through. But
yes,
shouldn't be suggests the practice. Okay, whatever.
Okay. So the easiest way, once again, to solve questions like this is to remove modifiers. So studies published, so we remove in the Journal of Personality and Social Psychology, right? So the actual sentence is just studies published suggest, right? So if you put a comma here, it wouldn't make sense. It couldn't be A, because then it will become a sentence fragment in the front with no verb. And then because it's this studies published is actually, this published is actually not a verb. This is the verb for the sentence. This studies, so you can think of it like published studies suggest, right? Published, it doesn't act like the verb here, it acts like you can say it's kind of like an adjective modifying studies. So it's a bit confusing, but yeah, studies published suggest. So yeah, it's just C. It's just C. Okay. So on to number 4. Can Sunny answer number 4?
Oh, okay. I think despite the fact that I think it's C.
It's C. Why do you think it's C?
Because I want to choose D, but it doesn't make sense because I can't put a comma after despite. Trustworthy. Actually, it's B. It makes more sense.
Okay,
yeah.
B makes more sense. What about other people here? This question is a bit more confusing. I mean, these questions are all a bit harder than usual. So yeah, anyone else have an idea on what this should be? So Sunny says it's B. Anyone else have like or do we just agree?
Could there be no change?
Yeah, it could also be no change if you think that's
no
valid.
change.
No change. So Janelle and Emily says no change. What about you, Sophia?
I also think it's probably like no change.
Okay. So let's do let's look at the actual sentence in the back. Okay. So also the people who don't want it to seem to also the people who do it don't seem to think that they're doing anything wrong. So you have a period, despite the fact that most people feel like it's just as unethical and untrustworthy as intentional lies of commission. So is this back sentence a complete sentence? Do you guys think it's a complete sentence? It's not, right? So why do you say it's not a complete sentence?
Because it's a sentence fragment,
Yeah.
and
so
it's like it doesn't have a part of the sentence.
Yeah, so the trick about the sentence is, despite the fact that most people feel like it's just this entire section in the back, this is a sentence fragment. And the reasoning is because despite works similar to because, right? So notice how whenever you write a sentence in because of this, comma, I do this, right? Let's say it's a sentence, it's simple like this. You always need the comma. The important part about despite is that despite indicates a start of a modifier. So usually it will say, despite of this, I do this, right? So you go until the period, meaning until the comma, meaning everything from the comma to the very beginning is a modifier. So yeah, like Janelle is actually indicating, the answer is C. So the reason why the answer is C and not B is because remember the rule for semicolons, right? If it were to be so Sunny, you're right in the sense that this couldn't be A because this will become a sentence fragment if you put a period here. However, if you put a semicolon, it's important to remember that the sentence preceding the semicolon and the sentence following the semicolon all have to be complete sentences. So because of the same reason that this will be a fragment, it cannot be B, because after what follows a semicolon must be a complete sentence and not a fragment. D is wrong just because comma, comma, and then despite with no conjunction, you produce two fragments. So the actual answer is C, yeah. Okay. Now question number 5, Janelle, can you do question number 5?
Wait, me?
Oh yeah, Janelle.
Okay. For example, that slimy used car salesman might say that the old battery you're looking at starts up great and are reliable models when you ask how it runs. I think it's B. It's either A or B.
It's either A or B. Okay.
I think it's
so you think it's A? So what will we go about to try to simplify the sentence, right? Because these sentences are purposefully long because we don't write short sentences in actual writing. So let's cross out the modifiers. So for example, it's a modifier. Let's cross it out. That slimly used car salesman, right? So we can remove that too. So slimly used car salesman. So this is all adjective modifying car salesman. So we can remove this. So salesman might say that the old beater. So the salesman might say that, right? So the salesman might say that we can simplify this thing to car. So the car and then starts up great. So the actual simplified sentence will just be salesman might say that the car starts up great, and then and are reliable models, right? So if you do A, it will be and are reliable, comma, and are reliable models, and then remove everything else in the back. So is this correct or is this not correct grammatically?
I feel like it kind of depends because some of my teachers say like you have to put a comma before every and some teachers say like you don't put a comma before like every and.
So that's the trick, right? So that's what this question is testing you. So there is a rule. It's not arbitrary. There is a rule for this, okay? So the actual answer is B. So you are correct in the sense that C and D is wrong and it's between A and B. However, how do we actually find out whether or not it's correct? Well, as we mentioned before, if you were to have a comma and, what does comma and do? It joins two complete sentences, right? So if it joins two complete sentences, the line in front here, this is a complete sentence and this is a complete sentence. right? So what subject, say predicate. So subject, predicate. However, is there a subject in this back sentence or no? There is no subject in this back sentence, correct? Because our reliable models, this verb is saying that the car, so the car starts up great. So the salesman might say that the car starts up, so it's the car starts up great, and the car are reliable models. So they are reliable models, basically. It's a bit confusing because I simplified the sentence too much in the front. But yeah, so basically this are is contingent on the verb in front, sorry, the subject in front. So given that's the case, so it's similar to how when you say, let's say, I run and sleep. If I say this, I don't put a comma before. I don't put a comma here, right?
No.
Yes, but if I want to put a comma here, what do I do? What do I need to do? What do I need to add?
I run and I sleep.
Yes, and I sleep. So then it becomes I run is a complete sentence, I sleep is a complete sentence. And that way you can put a comma in between. However, in this sentence, since the and are reliable models, this back portion is not, lacks a subject. The subject is mentioned in the first part of, it's mentioned here and not here. You need to have, you cannot have a comma. So it's B. Okay, question 6 is Sophia. Yeah, Sophia, can you do question 6, please?
I can't see the options.
Oh, my bad. Sorry, one sec. Yeah, it's a bit staggered.
I'm kind of confused.
Okay,
Like
so
for
that's
option B, is it replacing the whole thing?
yeah. So for option B, it'll just be he didn't lie to you, comma, didn't tell you the truth either.
Is it B?
B?
I'm not sure.
Yeah, so this is where this type of thing gets a bit confusing. This first thing for that you guys should know is this is higher level. This is about the stuff that you'll be doing in grade 10 and 11. So it's a bit higher level, but you guys are doing this fine. So yeah. So let's think about this logically, okay? So he didn't lie to you, but he didn't tell you the truth either. In this sentence, he didn't lie to you is a complete sentence. He didn't tell you the truth either is also a complete sentence. So we can look at the choices, right? So for A, he didn't lie to you, but he didn't tell you the truth either. Use a comma conjunction to join two complete sentences. This seems correct. So for right now, let's arbitrarily put a check here. Now, you say B, he didn't lie to you, didn't tell you the truth either. So the sentence by itself will be, he didn't lie to you, he didn't tell you the truth either. So if a sentence looks like this, then what happens? You're joining this. We know that the first part is a complete sentence. We also know that the second part is a complete sentence. So when joining two complete sentences, a comma by itself wouldn't be enough, right? It will become
said D, not
Oh, you said
B.
D, yeah. So yeah, so let's go through all this way. So then this wouldn't be correct because yeah, it's just it becomes a fragment. Let's look at the C and D. Yeah. So for C and D, although he didn't lie to you, but he didn't tell you the complete truth either. Although and but they don't work together, right? Because it becomes a double negative. It becomes like although he didn't lie to you, he didn't tell you. It should be he didn't tell you the truth either. Then what about D? So for D, you need a remember the rule about dashes is that dashes can double dash. So if you have dash dash, it includes like a modifier or additional detail, similar to a parentheses or a comma, comma. However, if you only have one dash, because we look, there's a dash here, but there are no dashes anymore, that means it gives you additional detail about something, right? So if it were to just give you additional detail, it works similarly to a colon and a semicolon in the sense that the front part of the sentence, although he didn't lie to you, has to be a complete sentence. So since although he didn't lie to you is similar to although is similar to because and despite as in it indicates a start of a modifier, then since this is a modifier and not a complete sentence, you cannot use a dash here. So it also cannot be D. Does this make sense?
Yes, I did not know what dashes did. I completely forgot.
Oh yeah, it's okay. So dashes work similarly to parentheses, as in if I do, it works. It's like a accumulation of parentheses and colons and semicolons. It's kind of weird. So I can say, I went outside today. Dash dash. It was cold, right? So in this situation, it works like a semicolon. So I can just replace it like this. It was cold. So dash dash can work like this. And then if you have dash, you can also have something like the zoo full of animals, right, is stinky. So if you have two dashes, it works similarly as comma, comma. So since in this situation, there's only one dash because you don't see any dashes at the end of the sentence, it becomes the D is wrong. Okay, so yeah, A is the right choice. So number 7, let's have Emily answer number 7. Emily, are you here?
I'm thinking.
Okay, yeah.
No change.
No change. Yeah, there is no change. So because making it harder to accuse someone of doing it, this back part is by itself a modifier. So you cannot connect it like B because it wouldn't make sense. Using a semicolon means the back sentence needs to be a complete sentence. However, it's not. And comma, if you say we make it harder to accuse someone of doing it, this becomes a complete sentence if you put we make. However, comma in between two complete sentences by itself is wrong. It should be a comma and, right? Or comma conjunction. So yeah, it's A. Okay, Sunny, can you do question 8? Wait, let me zoom out a little bit, 1 sec.
Can you scroll down a little bit?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh. No change.
No change?
No.
Why do you think it's no change?
Because yeah, it's no change. They just give you like a complete sentence and ask you if you should divide it or not. So
yeah. So no change works. Yeah. This question is a bit bad. So technically the answer here says C, but no change works too. Yeah. So C gives you a transition, I guess. So establish the relationship more clearly between these two sentences. However, yeah, you're correct in saying that this is a complete sentence and this is a complete sentence, and having a period separating them makes sense.
okay.
Okay, yeah, so you are correct in that, don't worry. What about question, this is a bit dumb. Okay, we skip question 9 because it's too hard to put it all in one scene. Okay, so yeah, that's the grammar practice for punctuations. Now let me pause. Now we will do a few more practice. You guys will each do 3 more questions, I think, for the next section. So it shouldn't be that hard though. Hold up. This one is a bit messier in layout because I have it on Google Docs. Okay, so let's have Janelle do the first question. Again, let's go down the order.
According to such organizations as
this is the verb subject verb agreement one.
Environmental Protection Agency, large amounts of smoke near nearby industry. I think it's A, no change.
It's A, yeah. Why is it A?
because it sounds right, and like a large amount of smoke.
What's
I
the
mean,
what
you can't
what
really
has
count
or like
it.
what have a large amount? So Emily says maybe it's D. So yeah, why is it have and not has or has had or is having? Is having
Yeah,
seems
I feel like
obviously wrong.
I feel like it's D because like you can't really count large amounts of smoke.
Oh,
So not really sure.
so the trick, right? So it's a bit confusing in the sense that the rule I give you of counting, it still kind of follows the logic of if you remove the modifiers, it all will make sense. So what I mean by this is the easiest way to solve questions like this is if you just remove the modifier. So of is a preposition, so remove of. Smoke, right? In your nearby vicinity is a modifier because it's a preposition. These two are prepositional phrase. So of is a preposition, in is a preposition. Things that follow it is a prepositional phrase. So large amounts have or has, which one should it be?
Large amounts have.
Have, right? Because amounts is plural and have is plural. So yeah, the trick is it's actually have. So it's tempting to put has as well, but yeah, if you just remove the modifiers, it's the easiest way to check on these questions. Okay, what about question 2? Let's have Sophia answer question 2. Oh, this question is question 2.
C.
B. B?
C.
C? Why C or why B? Or why, yeah, why C?
It sounds better.
Yeah, it does sound better, but we need to move away from just saying it sounds better, right? So there is a pretty, what is the subject of, what's the most important thing that the sentence is talking about? So once again, if you remove modifiers, where are there modifiers in this sentence?
In May 1846.
In May, yep. And then following that?
To the home of 3 siblings.
Yeah, that's also a modifier. However, what about in between? There's also a modifier in between. Or look for a preposition.
Of poems.
Yeah. So if you remove all poems, then what is it talking about? Book, right?
Yeah.
So book was
Singular.
So since book is singular, it should be was delivered, not were delivered. Yeah. So yeah, poems were delivered. That's true, but the whole of poems is modifying the book. So technically, you can remove it. So yeah. So then the actual answer is just C, was. Okay. Number 3, Emily.
No change.
No change. Why is it no change?
It sounds right.
Okay, then what about we?
Wait,
It's what?
C.
It's C. Okay. So why do you think it's has and not have? There's 2 ways you can modify the sentence, right? There's has and has, have and have. So why do you think it's has and not have?
I don't know. I don't know if it's has or have.
Okay, yeah. So how do we? What's the difference between has and have? Has is singular, have is plural, right? So what are we talking about here? What gives you joy?
B. Wait,
Huh?
yard
Wait,
work.
I mean, like hard work gives you joy. Okay, yard work gives you joy. Yes, but then what's modify? Like, what does yard work modify?
The few times.
Yes, it's the few times. So that is a modifier, right? do we know that that is a modifier?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that is a modifier, meaning I helped a friend with your work. This entire thing is modifying times. Does this make sense?
Mm.
So since this is all modifying times, we know it's times. So times some has or have given me, it should be have given me, right? So times have given me or have gave me, which one would be the correct one? So we know it should be have.
Plural, which one was singular again?
Has is singular, have is plural.
Oh.
So in this situation, since it's times is plural, we will choose either B or D. Right?
D.
D?
Actually.
It's B. Okay, so I will prepare a lesson on a quick point explaining given versus gave next time. So yeah, I'll explain that more fully next time. However, the important thing you should grasp is that it's the has and have kind of distinction. Okay, number 4, Sunny, can you answer number 4?
Okay. It's D.
D? Yeah, so number 4 is pretty simple. It's researchers are trying. Okay. Number 5, Janelle, can you answer number 5?
5. They could design.
They could design, exactly. So who could design? Dexter and Elon Musk, right? They could design. So yep, it is C. How about number 6, Sophia?
A.
A. Okay, so this then, how do I explain this? This then goes,
Is it B?
Yeah, so the confusing part is not A and B, it's, sorry, C and D, right? C and D you can remove. So it's confusing between A and B, right? So when it comes to magnitude and area of effect, we know it's magnitude and area, right? So magnitude and area, what can we group them as? Like if we were to use a pronoun to explain magnitude and area, what would it be?
They.
Yeah, so they are being recorded. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So it's like he and she, you can group them as they. So yes, it's a similar concept here. They are recorded. Okay, Emily, can you answer number 7?
Which one was singular? Which one was plural?
I'll write this on the slides. Okay. Let's see. I will write this here. Oh, sorry. Have singular, plural. Has singular. Okay. So what would this, where am I going? What would this be? Oh my God, that's the answers. Here, what would this be? If has is singular and have is plural?
Have one.
Have
D.
one. Yep. So the easiest way is group this, Sharon and her friend as they. So they have one. Exactly. Number 8, Sunny.
It's A, no change.
It's A. So why do you think it's A? I feel like whenever I say that, whenever I ask you guys the reason, you guys know it's probably wrong. Whenever it's right, I'm just like, oh, it's right.
Can I say it's because I feel it's wrong?
Okay, so there's actually a trick in this question that's very easy. Okay, so we know that subject-verb agreement. So what's have? What is have? Like, what does have refer to? What's the subject that it's tied to?
The primary writing.
Yeah, primitive writing, right? Yep, it is. It's tied to that. Yep. So is primitive writing, is it singular or plural?
Singular or it's a singular.
It's singular, right? So we know have is plural. So it cannot work for this, right? Because have, it's like they have. It's not I have. Oh, sorry, it's not he have. It's he has, right? So have cannot, primitive writing, since this by itself is singular, that means have been does not work because have refers to a plural subject, right? Let's say today it's primitive writings. Oh, sorry. Oh. Let's say today it's primitive writings. Then this will be correct. But since it's primitive writing, it has to be has. However, if we look at the choices that we have here, there are no has, right? So what's the actual answer then? So
it was still no change.
Wait,
it
was. So the easiest trick for this question is actually really simple. You should look at the choices itself. Have is what? Plural. Even the Google Doc is telling me to make a has. Okay, let's say have is plural. Is war plural or no? Is war like, is it he were or he was?
I think it's plural.
Yeah, war is plural.
He were.
He were doesn't work, right? It's he was. Yeah. They were makes sense, right? So this is plural. What about are? Do I say he are or do I say they are?
Okay.
Right, so this is plural, this is plural, this is plural. The only singular choice out of all this is B, so it's was. But the answer is B. Okay. Yeah. So that's a really, like, I guess you can say like quick and easy way, but it takes a bit of time. The easiest way to just identify this is just see that this is singular. You have to pick a singular verb to accompany the singular subject. Okay, number 9, Janelle.
Number 9.
Yep.
Red crosses. Can say we could say boxes.
I mean, they're all synonyms. They all mean the same thing. So there is one grammatically correct choice.
I feel like it's B. Shipment.
It's B? Okay, why is it B?
Because like boxes, parcels, wait, I'm not sure.
Okay, what about, think about a subject-verb agreement. Look at the rest of the sentence to see if there are any clues.
Food and supplies arrive at the food side. I delivered it to those in it. I feel like they're saying it.
Mm-hmm.
So it would be like relatively.
Is it singular or plural?
Singular.
Yeah. So
I would say shipment.
Yep, exactly. It's shipment, right? Because everything else is plural. It's similar to the question above where packages, parcels, boxes, they're all plural, where shipment is singular. So immediately, if you're solving this on the test, right, you'll just see like, oh, shipment, like it should be shipment. However, I delivered it. So it needs to refer to what did they deliver? They delivered the package, right? They didn't deliver packages because packages would be I delivered them. So same logic goes with parcels and boxes. Okay, Sophia, can you answer number 10?
B.
Yeah, so guy, her, so it has to be a girl, right? or like the pronoun has to match with the sisters. It only matches with the sisters. Yeah. Emily, number 11.
Is B.
Is. Yeah, it's is. And it's because doll bones is the name of the story, right? It's the name of the story. So although it's plural, bones is technically plural, it's a name. So it's still singular. And lastly, number 12, Sunny. Oh, A is just no change.
Oh.
Yeah.
I think it's A.
A. And why do you think it's A?
My intuition.
Mm-hmm. But let's not use intuition, right? So starting off, we know that comma.
Because
we know that there's a comma here, right? Is there
Yeah.
a preposition following that or no? Because we know the sentence in front is a complete sentence.
No.
So there is no comma. So we know that this has to be a fragment or a modifier, right?
Yes.
So it has to be a modifier, which means it cannot be a complete sentence. So that immediately eliminates one of these choices. Which one does it eliminate? Immediately,
They.
yeah, they, right? And it's D, because they each have their own rules of their own. That's a complete sentence. It couldn't work like that. Okay, so now we're left between each with its own rules, each having their own rules, which has its own rules. So what are we talking about here?
We're talking about the rope jumping games.
Yes. So the rope jumping games each have, okay, so which has its own rules. Oh, this is really tricky. Okay. How do I explain this? Okay. So we know it cannot be B. And the reason why it cannot be B is because each having their own rules, there and each doesn't make sense. Each has to be singular, right? So it cannot be each. So it cannot be B. Between A and C, I might have to. Yes. Sorry.
I still think. Well, I think it's C.
I think it's C. The answer is A. So it's a bit confusing. So it's the reason between which and each. That relationship that these words entail is different. So I'll have to create a lesson on that too, which is annoying. Okay. It's a separate lesson. Yeah, it's a separate lesson. That's kind of my bad. Ignore this question. Yeah, this question. The important part is just to know that it can be B and can be D. These are a bit confusing. So I'll make a lesson on that. So what do I have to make a lesson on? Let me check again. I need to make a lesson on the relationship of words, right? Like the connotation of the words. Okay, I'll do that for next class. Okay. So with that out the way, I know, take a breath. Very boring. I mean, it's a problem. I always find those kind of like problems, drills kind of boring, but it's important to know. It's important to just to realize you can't just use intuition, because a lot of times if we use intuition, and as you guys see, sometimes your intuition is correct and sometimes it's wrong. Your writing also reflects that, right? So if you're writing and you're writing the thoughts in your head, but your thoughts in the head might not necessarily be grammatically correct, then that becomes a problem throughout the essay, where you keep having subject error mistakes. And even I still have that sometimes. So, but it's important to catch it on second reading, right? So, yeah.
Yeah.
Now let's do this. So let's talk about evidence and argument. So how do you write a compelling thesis statement and back it up? So wait, let me quickly check something. So I think not all of you guys turned in the homework. So remember to turn in the homework which is just an outline, so I can give you kind of feedback, right? And some of you guys have pretty good outlines, or I think the outlines could be generally for everyone, outlines could be a little bit more detailed in the sense that aside from just telling me your main argument, like in paragraph 1, I'm going to talk about this, and then like put a whole and either like put the entire unrefined evidence inside. I want you guys to pick specific quotes, like smaller quotes, like maybe like 1 to 2 lines only that you would directly cite, like, oh, this quote illustrates that. So this is kind of like a lesson on that. How do I present? Okay, never mind, I won't present. So for question 3, so when we think of our, what I told you guys is the way you come up with your thesis is to think about the weird things that happen in the text, right? For examples, one of you guys are writing about that is the book a tale for children? So that's included in the title. So then you have to wonder, why is that there? So then your motivating problem might be, oh, why is it a tale for children? Why is it called a tale for children, right? So then how do you get from a motivating problem to an argument? So it's similar to the way that you came up with that question to begin with. So you have to do what we call close reading and rereading, to basically just read the text more closely and understanding it, right? So you might go from a question of why is it a tale to children, to then changing it to an argument. So is it a tale to children, yes or no? And then you have to have evidence to support your claim. So when you first do close reading, right? So if you read the text closely, you might realize, oh, this text is very dark. This a very old man with enormous wings. This text is super grim. So why is it a tale to children? So that's then that. Why is it a tale to children? Is then your motivating problem. So actually, let me write this out. Wait, I'm not sharing screen. Am I sharing screen? I am, right?
You're not.
I am not. I am so sorry. Okay.
Now you are.
That must be so confusing. I am so sorry. Okay, so this is what I was talking about. Okay. But anyway, look at the workflow down here. So when we did close reading, which is kind of what we did last time with discussion, a lot of you guys noted that the story is sad, right? Sad. So then what some of you guys want to write about is that why, like it's called a tale to children. So why is it called a tale for children? The question mark. So that's your motivating problem. And then close reading your evidence. So you read basically what happens is then read the story again, right? Again, to try to answer the question. And then at the very end, you come up with your argument, or definitively, yes, this is a story for children, or no, right? So then this becomes your argument, or what we call your thesis statement. Okay, does that make sense? So that's kind of like the brainstorming that goes behind what you do. Wait, where did it go? Okay. I am such a Zoom like noob. Wait, it's not working again. Okay. Yeah. Nice. Okay. So what is an argument? So the argument is just your thesis statement. So argument is the solution to your problem. So the problem on top might be, why is it a tale to why is it called is it a tale for children? Why is it called a tale for children? And then the solution or your thesis statement will say, oh yes, it is a tale for children. No, it isn't a tale for children. Or the author calls it a tale for children because of these reasons. So your main argument is your thesis statement, basically. And you will also try to make smaller arguments throughout the paper to support your primary argument that this is a thesis statement, to support your thesis statement. For example, if I argue that, let's say my thesis statement today is, oh my God, where is it? Okay, yeah. It is a tale for children. So that's my thesis statement. So what's one reason that might support the book being a tale for children? Any ideas? Or no?
No.
No, okay. We just don't think so. We just don't think it's a tale for children. I think most of you guys say it's not a tale for children. But one thing that we can maybe say that I can like kind of make up would be that, oh, it depicts the reality of the world, right? in a non-glamorized context, right? Which is important for children now to realize, right? So it's not, and we're not living in a fantasy anymore. We're not living in a fantasy land. We're living in this really real and like unbeautiful world. And that's why it's important. That's why it's a tale for children, because the author wants kids to realize this, right? Or you can say it's not a tale for children because it's supposed to be sarcastic. It's making fun at many tropes that are present within childish fantasies. Okay, so what should it do? Like what I mean by it is the thesis statement or like your argument. So it should shed light on something new about the text. So basically that means it should show your unique reading and how it deepens like my or your understanding of the text as a whole, right? So it should talk about something, it should talk about the text in a way that a less careful reader might overlook or misunderstand. So it shouldn't be restated. You shouldn't be summarizing the text again, like, oh, in the book, the Spider Woman is popular and the old man is not popular. Like, yeah, I already know that. However, if you have, that could be used as evidence, right, to support your argument. So your argument might be instead, it illustrates flaws of, like the book illustrates flaws of human nature, right? That might be your thesis statement. And then one of your evidence might be Spider Woman versus old man, right? Where the Spider Woman, because of her connectivity and because of her nuance and relatability, is preferred to over the old man, despite the fact that the old man actually has superpowers and the Spider Woman, in the context of the time, is a bad person, right? Even though right now it sounds normal to want to dance, but at the time when the book is written, it's like not that accepted, basically. So that might be one of your arguments. So then, but you can't just give me a summary of this and expect me to know what you're talking about, right? Yeah, it has to fit within a broader context of your thesis statement. Okay. Okay. So yeah, once again, we want arguments and not observations. So throughout your essays, you should ask yourself, are there reasonable alternative interpretations? So if no, then you have an observation. If yes, then you have an argument. For example, onto the Spider Woman and the very old man with enormous, very old man point. If you just say the Spider Woman is popular and the old man isn't, that's an observation, right? I can't say no. Like, yeah, that's what the text says. It's true. So you're just observing what the text is saying. However, if you say the Spider Woman is more popular than old man, and the reason for this is because the author wants to depict the human nature's tendencies to be drawn towards things that they can relate to. If that's your argument, then that's good because it's an argument. Like the reasoning behind why they're similar relates to your basically makes your argument whole. So let's look at this. Okay, let's look at this. You guys all know the Great Depression, right? In 1940. Do you guys know or no?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
It's
Yeah.
a pretty sad time.
So yeah, so like almost 80 years ago, actually almost, wait, that's crazy. Okay. Basically, United States fell into a Great Depression. No, it's actually almost a century ago. Yeah, so almost it's 1929. Anyway, United States economy basically went down by a lot, and then at the time, it's not usual for women to go out and find work. So they created this poster called Jobs for Girls and Women. So what's the observation here? Like, what's an observation that you can make on this poster? What do you see?
I see, like it says household employment,
Mhm.
and also they're going far enough to offer good jobs for girls and women.
Yeah.
Even and back then, like they didn't really have like good jobs or like anything like special jobs. Or I
Yeah,
guess
so
Yeah.
keep going.
kind
That's
of
it?
like they were looked down on in like the job stuff.
Yeah, that's kind of true. So women rights haven't been really that equitable until the 1960s. So this was still like 40 years away from that. So the observation, okay, so that the observation is that they will give you employment and they'll offer you good jobs. However, what the point that you said about women aren't that equal in society, that's an argument, right? So nowhere throughout this text does it say that women aren't equal to men in society. However, you can kind of postulate, you can guess, you can argue that that is the case, because if they are already equal and they are equal, then you wouldn't need to have this poster, right? You wouldn't need to encourage them to come out. Does this make sense? So the argument would be that women aren't that equal in society compared to men at the time. And because of, although it says good pay, good meals, good surroundings, the fact that you have to try to convince them to work and you have to offer them good pay, which should already be offered to begin with, given the idea of equality, means that there isn't equality. Yeah, that's very good. Let's see. So I wrote some examples down there. Let me clear it. Okay. So I wrote some examples down here. So observation, the poster alters light colored text and on dark backgrounds with dark colored text on a light background. So, you know, dark background, light text, light background, dark text, right? To kind of like create the sense of more immersion, right? And to make things stand out more. So once again, light background, dark text, right? So that's an observation of what's happening in this poster. And the observations that you guys just gave, that was the observation of like the message, basically saying that, oh, you get a good job and you get good employment. However, the argument is that the poster's first bold words, jobs, hints at the priority women laborers would have in this time. And that's because the availability of job mattered before the quality of those jobs. So this is an argument, right? Like I can look at this jobs and I can say that I think this is what it means. However, I need to support this argument. It's not observable. I can't just say, oh, this is true. Okay. So one tip for turning observations into arguments is to brainstorm responses. So how does this observation change the way we understand the objects? So tying back to the very old man with enormous wings, if you want to write about human nature, you have a lot of observations you can have, right? For example, how the people treat the old man. What does that say? How does that impact the way you understand human nature? What about what does that old man actually stand for? Well, you can view the circumstances where he comes to town, right? So he comes into town, the town is kind of in a mess. Everyone's sad, there's a lot of death. And when he leaves the town is more alive than it was. That's an observation. However, you can change that to support your argument in the sense that, okay, so the town changes. How does that change the way we understand the old man, for example, right? Is he a good thing? Is he a bad thing? So that's one thing you can change. So last class, we noted a lot of observations. So now it's your turn to change those observations into a thesis statement or into an argument. So what makes a claim or what makes an argument compelling or interesting, right? So a lot of times what we worry about is when you write an argument, it's too obvious and it's boring. So there's two elements to make a claim good. So good claims should be highly surprising and highly provable. So provable in the sense that it's not lacking in evidence. You can't just say that, oh, the old man is actually a devil, and then not give me any evidence, right? So this is a chart about what's a good and interesting thesis versus an interesting thesis, okay? So starting off with low surprise and low provability. So it's very likely to occur that readers also have low supporting evidence. So it's like, oh, let's say today I say the old man is very old. It's not surprising. And it's actually no, that hides into the high provability but low surprise category, right? So high provability and low surprise, as in the old man is very old. Yes, that he is very old, right? So you have a lot of evidence to support that he's old, but also I'm not surprised by it. And then low provability but very interesting, right? So low provability but so high surprise, but low provability would be like the old man is actually a devil. So in this case, it's interesting because I'm like, okay, yeah, he's a devil, but you don't you're claiming that he's a devil, but then you're not there's not that much evidence in the text to support that fact that he is a devil, aside from like maybe his feathers aren't the way that you imagine an angel to be, right? However, then how can you imagine, like, what does the devil look like? How can you say that he's a devil, right? So it has low provability. So one thing that could be like high surprise and high provability would be an argument, for example, saying that, oh, this is intended for children, like this book is intended for children to read, right? That's highly surprising because throughout the book, what we claim is that the book seems to be not intended for children. However, there's also a lot of evidence that you get, and there's just a lot of rhetoric and reasoning you can do to illustrate that actually it is intended for children. In an ironic way or not, that's also up to you to define. Right? So generally what we want to do is we want to have thesis statements in this category. Okay. So what is a compelling claim? So let's look at these practices. Is this a compelling claim? The woman excludes happiness. Here, this poster, sorry, like back onto this poster. Okay, so look at this poster very quickly. Okay, ingrain it into your head, and let's move on. Here is which one of these is a compelling claim? A, B, C, or D?
E?
D, right? Yeah, so D is the best claim out of here. So A, the woman excludes happiness. That's uninteresting, and it's very obvious. It's like an observation. With his poster, Bender to ingrain an image, I would launch a new vision of domesticity for a white working class woman. Well, this might be true, but it has low provability because it's just a poster telling people to go to work, right? There is no, the concept of race isn't really intertwined in that. So the point about white woman is hard to prove. And it's really hard to say what the author wants to do. Aside, like you can tell that he wants to get people into jobs, but it's very hard to prove that he wants to launch a new vision of domesticity, right? That's very hard to prove. So this is, we can say this is surprising, but with low provability. The woman in the poster is showing that her favorite part of domestic service is dishwashing. Well, this is not like, this is low provability, right? The woman is just happens to be washing dishes, doesn't mean she necessarily enjoys it despite her positive countenance. And similarly, you cannot prove, like it's also not that surprising. Like you can kind of look at it and you can be like, okay, that's kind of true. But then there's no point in proving it as well. It's also similar to like an observation, but it's also like hard to prove at the same time. It's really weird because you don't know what the woman in the poster actually thinks. She's just, you can think of her more as a prop that the poster employs, right? Lastly, the poster's Deep Depression era depiction of a beaming housekeeper offers women who are struggling to find employment a vision of domestic service as honorable and even joyful work that will not diminish your social status. Now, this is provable, right? So you can find the intent behind. So there's a lot of historical context that can support this as your thesis statement. So this is both surprising in the sense that as a person, when I look at this, I just, maybe I don't think about it that deeply. Maybe I look at this poster, I'm just like, oh, they want to find work, right? However, there is no, however, given the historical context and interpretation, this thesis statement could work. So it's both pretty surprising and highly provable. So here we want to pause for 2 minutes. Okay, so let's pause for 2 minutes and let's think. Think about your thesis statements and think about, is it provable and is it highly surprising or not? I mean, there's no reason for us to pause right now in class. You guys all kind of know your thesis statements and I kind of read most of it. But just, yeah, once again, do be reminded that you should turn it in so I can give comments. Yeah. So I have a quick question. Oh, sorry, I saw in the chat. Yeah, no problem. So I have a quick question though. Is finishing the entire essay too much for next week, or is it not?
We can finish a rough draft, but
Yeah,
not
like a rough
the
draft.
whole.
Yeah, like a rough draft. Like, of course, because my intent is that we will, I will revise it basically. But like, is finishing the essay, just writing out the arguments and like finding evidence, is that too much to do for next week? Or are you guys fine with that?
Not really.
Not really. How about you, Janelle?
It's like okay. I might be able to manage it.
Okay. So that's what I have planned for this week, at least. The homework is just to finish the essay. Let me think. If we were to, because I don't want a week where we don't have any homework, you know, as weird as it sounds. So let's think. How about we just try to finish it for next week, and then if it really is too hard, then we can put it for the week after, if that's fine. However, one thing that will happen then is next week, I will be assigning a new homework. Does that make sense? So I recommend, so I'll assign it this week, and it will be due it could be due next week or next week, depending on if you guys can finish it. But if you guys really can't finish it, there's also going to be additional homework next week, aside from just finishing the essay. Okay, so that's what we can probably do to make it more, you know, fair on both sides. And then incorporating evidence. So there is an important part where your method of analysis is close reading. You're reading the text more closely, and as such, you should incorporate evidence. So you can cite evidence. For example, I don't think we have to introduce the source because we only have one source, right? It's the paper. That's right, it's the story. So you don't need to say, oh, like in the very old man with enormous wings, every single time you cite the evidence. You just need to maybe cite it once in the introduction. So yeah, just cite it once in the introduction and it should be fine. Right. So as for quotes, so there are many ways you can use quotes. So for example, you can say, according to Edward Said, the author of Culture and Imperialism, one expert in culture imperialism claims that, right? So that's another way to say it. In Culture and Imperialism, Edward Said argues, in an important study on culture and imperialism, Said contends, and Said claims that his most recent work on culture, that. So these are ways that you can introduce sources, but you don't really need to introduce it. So for you guys, this might appear in the introduction paragraph. So in the very old man with enormous wings, written by this, right? The author depicts a world of this. So summarize the story very quickly, and then tell me the thesis statement, right? Through its grim imagery, through its and the actions of people towards the old man, the author demonstrates, the author illustrates like the brutality of human nature, something like this, right? And there's also citing the source as a two-step process. You guys don't need to do in-text citations. This is okay. But there is one part that I want you guys to know, which is how you should quote this. So basically, you can like argue like in the middle. So instead of saying like in cultural imperialism, how Edward Said argues that, because this is the intention, or when I first created this, it was meant to basically fit into a more argumentative essay featuring a lot of sources, which is what we'll actually be doing next. However, since this is only one source, you can just say that after the old man has stayed on the island for a while, right? It was observed that, and then give me a quotation, like the Spider-Woman became more popular because of her relatability or something like this. So this is kind of how you want to style your in-text writing. Give me quotes. I need quotes of evidence to support your reasoning. However, another thing that's very important is that aside from just putting quotes in, which is important, you also need to explain the quote. So you can't just put a quote inside saying, oh, the Spider-Woman is more popular than old man. Like, yes, that's true, but I need to hear your explanation from it, right? So you can say, oh, because the Spider-Woman is more popular than the old man, we can get the sense that human nature is inclined to align with those that they find relatable rather than someone they don't, like an in-group, out-group perspective. So then you need to explain the quote. So this is an example of good evidence usage. So in cultural imperialism, Edward Said argues that Western imperialism and third world nationalism feed off of each other, but even at their worst, they're neither monolithic nor deterministic. So this is citing the evidence, right? This is similar to what you guys will be doing, where it's like in the middle of the story, the old man says that the Spider-Woman is stated to be more popular than the old man. And then you explain it. So what Said means by the third world, of course, are those cultures characterized by the West as underdeveloped. Those countries whose economies are largely shaped by the West's global economic expansion. So this is him explaining the quote and adding more of his interpretation to it, the author's interpretation to it, right? This is what you guys also need to do as well. So yeah, that's pretty much it for today's class. Time is almost up as well. So basically for next class, what about we just say homework would be, so I wanted to do this together in class. I don't know if it would be that convenient. So what about, let's say for homework, I wrote try to finish the rough draft for the essay on a very old man with enormous wings. And right, and then if you cannot finish it entirely, please submit by the latest, right? The class after. So the class after will be, so it should be due on April 1st, but if you really can't finish it, try to finish it by April 8th. However, if you cannot finish it, try to submit it latest by April 8th. So April 8th. However, note that we will also have new homework on April, after the class on April 1st, okay? So after the class on April 1st, we will still have additional homework. So you don't want to not do it at all and then have twice the amount of homework due in 1 week, right? So yeah, that's pretty much it for today. I will give you guys comments on outlines.